Morning. Welcome to the Marketing, Branding and Getting the Sale show. I'm here today with my co-hosts, Jess and Stephen. And today we're talking about how to raise your prices without pushback. So before we dive into that, let's just do some quick intros for those of you who have not met us before. So Stephen, over to you. Coming from your car this morning, but not driving, please note.
No, that is correct. I am parked up and I am safe and adhering to all safety laws. Morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS Limited, outsourced business development service. So if you're looking to make appointments but don't like calling, don't want to make calls, or don't have the time to make calls, then you can outsource that to me and I will take that all on board, update your CRM, send out emails and get you more business. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Stephen. Jess, over to you.
Morning, everyone. So I'm Jess. I make businesses more profitable and scalable through my 6-step brand loyalty process that makes sure they've got a compelling brand that works with them in converting more sales rather than just, sat there looking pretty and getting in the way, I suppose. So that's me, Jess. I'm a brand consultant.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jess. And I'm Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach, and I can help any business to unlock 50K in only 50 minutes. If you want to know how, DM me or comment below, and I will send you a video that shows you how. All right, so let's dive into our topic today of how to raise your prices without pushback. Now, before we kind of get into the mechanics of how to do this, I want to talk about pricing because it is one of the most kind of emotional things that I come across when I'm working with clients, because all sorts of things come up, like I don't want to rip people off. I don't want to be seen as ripping people off. I want to help, as many people as I can, or I want to help people who can't afford higher prices. And just, people's own money issues around actually how much money they may earn, how much money they might feel that they deserve, all of these kind of things going on. So, Jess, Stephen, what are your thoughts on what I've said? Have you ever resonated with any of those? Come across people who have? What are your thoughts?
So if I may go first, Jess, it's age before beauty, if that's okay, because I think I am actually the oldest here, although I know I don't look it. So I've had a couple of issues with pricing in the past, and one of them, actually, the two issues. One issue is that I've always been a bit wary about raising my prices, but I've done research. So before I started the business, I found out what competitors were charging, and what I had in mind was always there or thereabouts. But one of the problems I had was I gave an introductory offer when I first started, and and I said it was only going to be for a few months, and the longer and longer it got on, the more difficult I found to actually go and raise the price. And then I spoke to a certain business coach, mentioning no names, who said, no, you absolutely need to raise that price. If you're doing a good job for that person and they continue to use your services, obviously they see value in that. Therefore, you're quite within your rights to raise your price, which I did. And lo and behold, they took it on board and said, absolutely no problem. So, Una, that person was you. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. But also, one of the things, and if we might come back to this later on, but the other thing is, don't be afraid to walk away if nobody's prepared to pay the price that you're asking, because you're worth it, or we're worth it. If they see value in what we do, then they should have no qualms about paying that price.
Definitely. We'll talk more about value later, because that is the kind of core principle around pricing and your pricing strategy. Jess, what's your thoughts around the mindset side of pricing?
Yeah, because that's been a huge, personally for me, that's been a huge block. When I first started my business, I've been in business now probably coming up to 4 years, and at the beginning, even till now, I'm still going through moments where it's an emotional kind of mental mindset block about my prices. Obviously, less and less, it happens less and less, but especially when I first started out, it was a huge hurdle, and I think a lot of that does come down, well, from my experience, a lot of it came down to not seeing my own worth and own value. And I know we're going to touch on value before, but for me, it really kind of made it all make sense. I saw that what value I was offering, and then I tailored my package so that my clients had more value as well. And once I got into the swings of things in my business, and I'm talking to businesses and I'm working with my clients, over time, I understood more and more what they wanted, what they really needed, not what I just thought they wanted and what I thought they really needed. And so I tailored my package to that. And then I'm okay with my prices because I know the worth that they're going to get out of that. But yeah, it is when you say emotional, I was like, yes, it's been such an emotional thing for me. I don't know why. Like, I wonder why money is so emotional for a lot of people. And like it is, isn't it? Whether it's raising your prices,
Oh,
whether
yeah.
it's I don't know, giving someone some money, whether it's paying for whatever, your food shop, whatever you want to pay for, it is an emotional kind of handover, isn't it?
There's a huge amount of kind of attachments that we have mentally, emotionally to money. And it's so interesting because it actually it doesn't matter so much how much people have, it's how they feel about it that's important. And I would highly recommend for anyone who who has these issues, please go and get some help with it. At the very least, I recommend you read a book called The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. And she was a fundraiser. She's raised billions of dollars during her career for various worthy causes, and she has worked alongside people who are very resource rich, as she calls it, and also those who are resource poor. And the amount, the quantity of resources that people have does not determine their happiness. This is something that's really key. Stephen, I'm getting seasick.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Please stay still. I'll keep your phone still. I'm kind of like, whoa. So apologies for that. So yeah, it's like there's a lot of kind of mindset things that go on around it. I want to talk about some of the reasons why it's important to review your prices and to make sure that you're charging appropriately. So and one is mindset, but from the other point of view. And by the way, please let us know below, what do you think about this? Like, have you raised, like, when did you last raise your prices? That's one of the questions I ask people often when I'm kind of talking to a prospective client, or just even talking to business owners, because it's a huge thing. Sometimes people haven't raised their prices for years, and when people are getting pushback on prices, like, it actually is a signal. I think there's a kind of a couple of things around it. Number one, they're obviously not giving off the vibe that they believe in their pricing. Okay, so that's number one. And number two, it comes back down to value and and also differentiation. Because here's the thing, I'm always talking about having a strong market dominating position. When you have a strong market dominating position, you're no longer a commodity, because when it comes to a commodity, people will always choose the lowest price, because why wouldn't they? There's nothing to differentiate. A commodity is a commodity. If you just think about like steel or oil or tin or copper, those are commodities. They're the only difference in them is price. But when you have a service-based business, or you have a product-based business, and you have a brand around that, then you are able to have a market domination position that will make people want to buy from you instead of other people. If that market domination position is strong, if it's non-existent or it's weak, then it's not going to have the same impact. So this is definitely one of the ways to be able to increase your prices. So, but the mindset part of actually making sure that you're charging appropriately is because of how it makes you feel, not only when you make the sale, but also in how you feel in delivering that. And I'll never forget, like, I've had several people, like, and often in the creative services, undercharging and over delivering is a bit of an epidemic. But I've had so many people, like, I remember one saying that they literally felt resentful. They were seething when they were doing this client's work because they hadn't charged anywhere near enough. They'd had to push back on price, and because they were a bit cash starved, they thought, well, I'll take the job. But then they were like going, oh, I could be doing something else. I could be doing something that would be more valuable for my business. And they also felt resentful because they knew they could do a much higher standard of work, but the client wasn't prepared to pay for that. So they were doing a job that they didn't feel proud of. They weren't getting paid enough for it. And that's like, that really left a mark on them, and it made their self-esteem go down because they had succumbed to that. I remember another client who said, when they spoke to prospective clients and they would be like all interested and, kind of, oh, right, this sounds fantastic. And then she would say the price and they would immediately start pushing back on that. And she said she felt ground down, she felt demeaned and diminished because they weren't seeing what she perceived as her being valuable. Okay. So this is one of the things that's really, key, is that we have to make the distinction between us, like for those of us who are service providers, we have to make a separation between us and our business. Even though our businesses might be our babies and we feel so tied up emotionally in our businesses, when somebody is looking at your product or service offering, it's, even though you put yourself into that, it's not you that they're judging the value of what they see. Okay. And sometimes maybe what you have is great and it's a perfectly appropriate price, yet you haven't communicated that value. So therefore they don't see the value in it, because value is in the eye of the beholder. Okay. Value is in the eye of the beholder. And this is what you've got to make sure that you're doing, is making sure that you're charging an appropriate price for the value that that person sees. Okay. Now, if you think about it, well, let's look at branding. Okay. So, Jess does branding, and like, you can pay anything. Like, well, when people first set up in business, when they don't think of branding per se, they tend to kind of go, well, I need a logo, right? That's not a whole branding process that Jess does. It's just a logo. And you can go to Fiverr and get a logo for $5 or $10, or like, branding can be anything from, I don't know, $1 to $2 grand up to 50 grand and more. So like, how can there be such a wide variety of what appears to be the same thing? Well, a lot of this is down to, well, what actually is really going on? What's the expertise behind it? What's the size of business? What is it worth to them? Now, and I want to tell you two stories. So one is, I was talking about pricing with a business colleague one day, and he said, it's really interesting because he had asked 3 graphic designers for a quote for some work, not branding work, it was like some marketing materials. And one of them was actually a friend of his, so somebody he knew very well, and he wanted to give them the opportunity to do the work. And he actually didn't choose them despite the fact that they were the cheapest. Why? He didn't have confidence that they would be able to produce the work for that price, not at the level that this guy wanted. So it's really important that that you don't undercharge thinking you're going to get the work, and then actually you might miss out on it. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Raj. Value is definitely the eye of the beholder. And it's interesting here, isn't it, that I think especially when people are earlier on in the business, there's a temptation to think cheaper is better, but actually it's not. So let me tell you another story. I was doing a workshop one day, and this guy shared this story, one of the attendees, that a colleague of his, it was a friend of his, and they actually shared an office at that time, at the time of the story. And so he was a speaker and a consultant, and he was charging, at that time, he was charging $3,000 per day. And he wanted to put his prices up to $5,000 a day, but he was very nervous doing it. So a few months had gone by, he still hadn't done it. And then he got a referral to a very large organization, and he thought, right, this is my chance. It's a bigger company. I'm going to put my prices up to $5,000 a day. And for what they wanted, the job would have been 15 grand because it was 3 days of work. So anyway, he put in the quote, crickets, never heard anything. And he thought, oh, okay, well, obviously that's too much. So I'm just going to stick to my current prices. So he carried on. Another year went by. He was still charging the $3,000 a day. And then he gets a call from this big global company that he quoted for a year earlier. And they said, we want you to come in and do this job. So he went and he did the job. And actually, the end of the first day, the big boss guy, kind of in the group, said, do you know what? We've done enough here today. let's forget about the next 2 days. It's been amazing. We need to just go and implement this. So the guy delivering the workshops was delighted. He gets an extra 2 days. He's still getting paid the 15,000. They all had to change their travel arrangements, and he ended up in a car going to the airport with the big boss guy. But he was sat there going, staring out the window and just looking really kind of hacked off. And so he said, is everything okay? And so the guy said, well, did you quote for us, like about a year ago? And he said, oh yeah, I did. Right. Not happy at all. And he said, well, is there a problem? And he said, well, yes. He said, today we have uncovered millions of dollars in extra profits from the workshop that you've done. And we could have had that a year ago, but I didn't hire you then because I didn't think you were any good. And so he was really shocked, and he said, well, why didn't you think I was any good? And he said, well, you weren't charging enough. But, well, what would you have expected me to charge? And he said, I don't know, 80, 100 grand. Now, I'm not saying that everybody, I look at Stephen's eyebrows and whoop, Jess has heard the story before. So the thing is that, it varies so much, the value in the eye of the beholder. And look what happened. That company lost out on millions because they didn't hire this guy because they thought he was no good, because he was undercharging. And it's all about value. Like if he'd gone into a smaller company and done exactly those same strategies, then, it wouldn't have been millions. Maybe it would have been hundreds of thousands, or another company might have been tens of thousands. It all depends on your audience and the impact that what you do has on that audience. And we just need to understand that, value is in the eye of the beholders. So yes, Stuart's saying it's amazing. Some business owners have no value towards a logo. A micro could be $100, or an enterprise, yet 20K plus. Absolutely. Work with people that understand the value. And so part of this is about making sure that you are fishing in the right pond when it comes to your lead generation strategies. And, sometimes I come across so many business owners and they say, I want to, if they're in a B2B kind of service thing, service type business, and they quite often say, I want to help startups. And so they're really passionate about helping startups. But startups don't value your services the same as a larger organization does. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go and, only sell to corporates. There's like lots of things in between. Maybe you would love selling to corporates. Maybe that's what your solution is. But, you've got to make sure that you're charging for your value. So Marianne is saying people think everything is easy. Done with a click. They forget we studied hard to be able to do with a click. Absolutely. And this is one other thing. Actually, no, I'll just come to Jess and Stephen for their thoughts on what we've just been sharing here. And then I've got something else that I want to share that is a real mindset shift for a lot of people. So, Stephen, I can see you champing at the bit there.
Yes, there's a couple of things. That the comment that just came up, I absolutely agree with that. The fact that we are able to charge what we charge is because we've worked so hard to get there. That's I wanted to agree with that point. I have heard that story before. I didn't know it was 80,000. That's why I raised my eyebrows. I couldn't remember, but I believe it's you that told me that story. But it still amazes me. It's a great story. But thirdly, what are your thoughts on like what I did? So justifying the dramatic increase in price by offering an introductory price. Like for me as a new business at the time, in order to justify raising my price, I said, listen, I'll give you an introductory offer for a defined period of time first, and then the price will go up to the regular price. So is that not one way of raising the price but managing people's expectations, because they will then see the value, the work that you do, because the work's not going to change. You're going to do the same job, but you're giving them like a price break or an introductory offer, just like a teaser, before you then go in and say, okay, so you've had that for 2 months, now this is what I'm really charging. I mean,
absolutely. I think key is setting people's expectations, so if they know up front, okay, look, this is the price, this is the value for this. But if you feel that's going to get somebody over the line, you could do that. I mean, there are dangers in discounting, but at that time, because discounting can really eat into your profits. However, at the time you were just starting up. So, you know, what was more important to you was to get clients on board, get that cash coming through, and to get the social proof of, here's some success stories. Here's a company I worked for. This is what we achieved for them. So there are times, there's a time and a place for doing things like that. And sometimes it can become part of your business strategy. And as long as it's done right, I mean, you know, how often have we seen for software, for instance, a 7-day or a 14-day free trial to allow people to go in, have a play around and go, wow, this is amazing. Yes, I want to carry on with this. So there's, you know, there's definitely things that you can do with that for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, Marianne's also saying some people are impressed with high prices. Well, actually, do you know what? There are some people who will only buy from what they consider to be the best. They value themselves. They value themselves. They value the results they want more than money. They value money more than time. And quite often when people are reluctant to raise their prices, is because they value their money more than their time. Usually because they're not at full capacity. They have more time available, and to them at that point, it's like the money is more valuable than their time. But you got to understand that actually, you know, if you're selling to successful businesses, successful people, they have very, very different attitudes to time and money than you might have. So that's one thing, that's one mindset shift that I want you to make in understanding about how to raise your prices. And then the other is about flow. Okay, so Marianne said earlier, you know, they think everything is easy, and actually one of the challenges, particularly in service-based businesses, is that they're doing things that come easy to them. So I've heard so many creative services providers saying, yeah, but you know, this is so easy, like, you know, how can I charge that much? And they need to understand is that, yeah, but it's easy for you because you are talented at this. This is all in line with your natural strengths and abilities. You're in flow doing this. You love doing it. In one way, you might be like, well, if I didn't need the money, I wouldn't even charge for it. I just love doing it. However, you've got to understand that that actually makes what you do much more valuable than somebody who would struggle doing it. So let me ask you a question. If you were hiring somebody to do some work for you, would you want them to be absolutely in flow doing it, where they're having fun and it comes naturally to them? Or would you want to hire somebody who finds it hard and a struggle?
In flow, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Obviously. So the thing is that you've got to understand, like, look at it from the buyer's perspective. Okay, of course you want to hire somebody who finds it easy, because that means they're naturally good at it. And yes, of course, we can all study and upskill. But when something is in the realms of your natural talents, then that's when people shine. It's where they absolutely fly. It's where they're going to do the best work. So is it fair to penalize somebody who is experienced, who is in flow, by charging less or the same as somebody who doesn't have that experience? Of course not. You know, so one of the key things that is really key in raising your prices is actually making sure that you are packaging up your offer, that you're bundling, you're putting things together. You really, like Jess was saying earlier, right? She's gone through a whole process of identifying, what do our customers really want? What's the problem that she's solving for them? And putting together a package that will be compelling to them and appealing. So it's really important that, number one, you got that market dominating position. Number two, you got your mindset on point in terms of understanding value is in the eye of the beholder, and understanding that just because it comes easy to you doesn't mean that it's less valuable. In fact, it's more valuable. And number three, you've got to make sure that you are, again, making sure that your offers stand out from the crowd by really focusing in on a particular problem that you solve, perhaps for a particular audience, and that you do it in a particular way. Okay, like Jess has got her 6-step loyalty process. I've got my 50K in 50 minutes and 5 steps to double your profits. So these are the things that we talk about, because we know that sets us apart from other people in our industries, and you want to be able to do the same thing. Okay, so Stuart, a couple of comments here from Stuart I want to talk about. So Stuart is saying you can never go up after being down. So So that's true to an extent. I would, however, say that you can do things like Stephen has said, where you can set the expectations of this is the starting point, the price is going up. And ideally giving them this is what it will be. And in fact, having that anchor point of that higher price will often make people go, oh, okay, let me get in now while I can and try this out, and then then I can see what's happening. So he's saying they offer payment terms. Yeah, absolutely. Discount is a disaster. Yeah, this is true. I mean, look, there's a time and a place to have sales, discounts, and that, but there's often other ways that you can attract people to buy now. Okay, because life gets in the way. Encouraging people to make a decision is actually helpful to them, because rather than having this thing in the back of their mind of, oh, I need to make a decision on this, even though they're not consciously thinking it, it's taking up headspace, right? So it is good to have strategies in place to help people to make a decision, whatever that decision is, right? Where it's a good fit. But one thing I would say is, you can, like, the cost of living right now is going up. Okay, it's more expensive to buy things in the supermarket. Energy prices have gone up. A lot of, like I work with some product-based businesses. Transport the cost of transport has gone up where people are importing, even when they're not importing. Supplies have gone up. People are needing to raise their prices. So, please don't not raise your prices because you feel like you can't, and then end up, what's going to happen is your profits are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and all of a sudden you're going to be going, wait a minute, I need to make this investment in my business for some equipment or for some training or coaching or a new staff member. I can't afford to do that because there isn't enough profit in my business to do it. So it's really key. So I'm just interested. We've lost work for being cheaper. The business that won never delivered the project. Yes, do you know what? This happens more than you know. So sometimes you will find that clients will go for cheaper and then they'll come back. And this is where, if you've really been able to do a good job of explaining and demonstrating and proving your value, and why they are going to benefit from working with you. Yeah, sometimes people, there is a small percentage of people who will always shop on price and go for the cheaper, but quite often they will come back because they want to, they want to actually make things actually work better. So yeah, absolutely. So Aaron, hey Aaron, how are you doing? So yeah, year one I gave ridiculous prices just to prove the model and build an evidence base. Second year I increased the prices and or reduced the number of minutes on our service. So Aaron has a business where they do call answering and more for people who are in property, but they do call answering for everybody. And our service same packages. Once you got the evidence base, yeah, it's whoops, hang on 1 second. There we go. Once you got the evidence base, it's really important you hold your value. Sorry, the comment was cut off there on the screen. Absolutely. So yes, and this is so true, Aaron. Thank you for raising this point. The price shoppers tend to be the 20% that eat up 80% of your time. Absolutely. When you've got a reasonably established business, you've been trading a while, always review your client base and how much time are they taking up? How profitable are they really? So, and quite often the ones who are the penny pinchers are the ones who take up the most of your time. They expect the world, yet are only prepared to pay peanuts. And quite often when you free up your business from these clients, you actually can be more profitable. And one of the things in the 50K, one of the 50K things in the 50K in 50-minute session that I do is that we actually have got proprietary software, and we plug in your numbers about the number of clients you have, what different play around with different price increases, and it's amazing the amount of the times people go, well, I might lose this amount of customers, and yet actually I don't think I've ever had it. I know I've never had it yet where somebody wouldn't be more profitable losing those clients than they would be keeping them and not raising the prices. So it's amazing that because every pound that you raise your prices by goes straight to the bottom line. It's 100% profit. you know, whereas discounting means you need to sell much more in order to be able to have the same profit, let alone having more profit. So this is why discounting can be so damaging for your business. So yeah, absolutely. So okay, so Jess, what have you got to add? We've talked about quite a lot here today. What's something else that you'd like to add or comment on?
I think for one, I think it's amazing. I love these conversations because, you know, everyone that's commenting and everyone that's engaging and, you know, all the stuff that you're saying, I absolutely love hearing them stories. And when we think about pricing, when we think about money, we do, well, I have in the past, you know, and a few people that I've met, it feels quite isolating, doesn't it? When you think of that sort of thing, you think, I'm the only one going through this. I'm the only one that's got these issues. You know, such a body can, you know, have bigger prices and not even worry about it. What, you know, and you kind of, you know, look inwards for it. But look at us having this conversation today. Like, look at how many people have been through the same experience and how many people are saying, yeah, you know, value over price. And I just think that's a real eye opener. And another stat that I found and I talk about quite a lot is that 90% of people actually pay on price rather than pay on value rather than price. Sorry. So it's 90% of people. So Una, when you were saying, you know, it's that small amount of people that will buy on price because, you know, that's just who they are. It's 10% of people. It's that small. So there's all 90% of other people in the world that you can, you know, in your target audience that you can talk to. And I also wanted to go through some tips as well on how to communicate that, because we've talked about money mindset, you know, looking at yourself and looking inwards and thinking, right, how do I feel confident about it? We've looked at how you can tailor your business around it, how you can make sure you've got the packages and things like that. Or maybe you're at that point already, but you're thinking, yeah, I'm confident in all that, but how do I communicate it? You know, how do I tell people that I have got the value and it's worth it? So I wanted to go through a few things that I've been talking to my clients about as well that might help you. One of the things is that I see a lot of businesses leading with logic. So leading with, you know, 20 years in business, 50% off, buy one, get one free. You know, we only use the best ingredients. You know, they're all rational kind of points that advertise your product or service. You want to think deeper than that and think about the emotional gain and the emotional benefit that your client is going to have. So I have spoke about this before in a few other lives, but it is such a good and easy thing that you can do yourself. So when you're thinking of, you know, what makes your product or service or product better, what is it? What is that value? You know, maybe it works better for the customer. Maybe it saves them money in the long run. Maybe it makes their life easier. You know, they're all rational, logical things. But if you dig deeper, you know, what does, you know, if it works better, what does that give them? You know, it makes them feel free. You know, it makes them have more freedom in their life. You know, if they're saving money, what are they doing? They're staying in control of their life, their finances and things like that. You know, if it simplifies what they're doing on a daily basis, you know, that it brings them more optimism in the days and what they're doing and more momentum and energy. So think deeper. You know, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can find quotes on what people have said to you about your product or service and pull out them emotional words. You know, you can even look at competitors' reviews and things like that to you know, to have a look what they're saying about them and feel like, yeah, if that relates to your product or service or not. And then, yeah, just turn them logical, rational things into emotional things. That way you're communicating that value that people can understand, and price is going to come to the bottom. You know, when you don't communicate that value, that's when they think, okay, what can I compare this on? You know, I can't see any value in either one, so I'll just compare it on price. That's the only thing I can look to compare it on. So make sure you're communicating that value. So yeah, that's one thing I'd like to add. And also, if we did have time, Una, you have told me a story in the past that I repeat to people to this day because it's an amazing one. It's the one about the machine in the manufacturer, if you will, and the machine breaks down.
Oh, yeah.
And they have people coming up to fix it, right? Whenever I repeat it, I don't think I repeat it with the same impact. So I was hoping that you would share that one as well, because that was a big eye opener for me too.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I'd forgotten about that one. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, so there's actually several versions of this story going around. So the version I heard, basically a manufacturing company. So you imagine they've got kind of machinery, and I kind of picture those kind of roller things with products going along and up and down and, you know, all around the plant. And but it breaks down. Of course, you know, when a machine breaks down, production stops. It costs that manufacturing company a lot of money, and so they call in the engineer to get it fixed. The engineer turns up and kind of has a look around, kind of bangs a couple of things, and then goes to one place, tweaks the screw, kind of closes the door, and then hands the kind of scribbles it out, hands a bill over, and the plant manager is going, wait a minute, you're charging $1,000, but you've only been here 5 minutes. And so he says, he takes the bill back and he writes on it and hands it back to him. So he looks, you know, turning the screw, $5, knowing which screw to turn, $995. So, or pounds, whatever. I don't know where it was, where the company was. So, and that's the thing that really illustrates the point of that, you know, the value is in your skills, your expertise. It's not time. And that's one of the things I really encourage people to do, you know, like for service-based business owners, please, please, please do not charge by the hour or by the day. And I know for a lot of people who've kind of come up kind of freelancing, I mean, there's, and also like, please don't call yourself a freelancer unless you actually are a freelancer. So here's what my understanding of what a freelancer is. So, you know, I have a background in marketing agencies, and we used to hire freelancers who used to come in for X number of days to work on one of our clients, or maybe on a pitch or something, but they would be doing work on our behalf. Okay, so then they would typically come either direct or through an agency, like a recruitment agency. But the thing is that they weren't working direct with the client. They had no communication with the client. They were our client, and we were just hiring them in. So that to me is the true definition of a freelancer. Yet today, there are so many business owners that are calling themselves freelancers, but they're actually working direct with the client. They own the client, and they have to start thinking of themselves as a business, not as a freelancer. And I think that's probably a whole other live actually in itself. You know, like, do you really, you know, do you have a job or do you have a business, right? So massive discussion. So we must add that to our list of topics. So yeah, you know, you've got to value, you know, understand the value in your expertise, and being able to communicate that, as Jess says as well. Stephen, any last thoughts for us?
Only don't be afraid to raise your prices. Like you've said, expertise, you can't put a value on that. You know, even though, for example, if you're not a professional, you've still put the effort and you've still put the time in. You know, it's like you've been an apprentice for all these years and you've finally become a master of your own profession or service or whatever it is that you do, and you've absolutely got every right to charge it. And if people aren't prepared to pay that price, walk away. Because there will be people that absolutely will see true value in the price that you're charging and will snap your hand off.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. And so look, one final tip for you, for those of you who have stayed till the end, made it worth your while. One of the things that I recommend my clients do is to raise their prices for new clients, make some sales, and then go back to their existing clients and raise those prices. Because what you've done then is it's a way of testing the market. Like, you know, if you've got a huge client base, you know, now if you haven't raised your prices for a number of years, please go ahead and raise your prices. But like, often when I'm working with my clients, I'm helping them to double or triple and sometimes even 10 times their prices, because they've been undercharging so much, and also because, you know, we're working on their positioning, we're working on them having packages and really compelling offers and that. And so, and sometimes they're working in different markets as well. So there's a whole host of changes that can go on to really be able to have you ramp up your prices. But don't underestimate, even like kind of 1, 2, 3, 5%, 10%. Most business owners, most clients, they're not even going to notice, you know, that you can do that. But do test the market, either with a small segment of your customer base or with new clients, just in case. Some markets are more price sensitive than others. Typically, that does tend to be ones that are more commodity focused. So, you know, whatever you can do to make yourself stand out, to add value, to not be able, you know, you want to get that, you know, kind of apples to oranges comparison of like, well, I can't really compare these. They're two different fruits. you know, whereas if you have apples to apples comparison, then you don't really have a leg to stand on. You know, people are typically going to go where it's cheapest. So yeah,
I love that. That's a really good one as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So we you know, be that orange. So I'm just even wearing the right color. Yeah, absolutely. Fabulous. Okay, so we are going to wrap things up now. Please let us know below, like what has been your experience with raising your prices? Is it something you're nervous of doing? Which tip have you found most, or story have you found most valuable? Do you have a question that you would like to ask? Put it in the comments below. And we will come back and answer that, or perhaps even answer it on another live. We're here same time every week. So yeah, pop it into your calendar and make sure that you are here to join us as well. So thank you, Jess and Stephen, as always, for being here. Thank you for being here as well. We will see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.